How do I let a work colleague know that I have no interest in being friends with them outside of work?
Keeshia, did you write this in?
I really struggle working with this particular person, but that's clearly unbeknownst to her as she continuously asks me to do things outside of work. I always come up with excuses not to go, but it's getting harder and harder. Also, these are not big group activities where everyone is invited. It's literally just the two of us and maybe one or two other people. Do I need to be more direct with her or just say yes and make it really bad make it a really bad time because she doesn't want to hang out anymore? Or just keep putting up with it and coming up with more excuses? Sorry, I know this is a super lame question, but I'm really desperate.
This reminds me of that movie, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. You know how she's like, I'm going to be the worst person on a date.
The worst friend.
Yeah.
This makes me feel sad.
For who?
For the friend, for the girl who wants a friend.
The work colleague?
Yeah, I feel she clearly...
Nah.
I feel sad for her.
I think she's not reading the room.
She's not reading the room, but she obviously isn't someone who has close friends because why is she trying to push a friendship so hard with someone who clearly doesn't like her?
Well, she's difficult to work with. That's probably why she doesn't have close friends.
Oh.
I think, look, I get this. I have always been this person that hasn't, and I think that's more of a personality trait as opposed to like not wanting friends. But I've always tried to keep my work life separate to my personal life, which is hard because sometimes, unless you really froth the person, like I have made some I've made some best friends through the hospital because hospitals that I've worked in, hundreds of people work in a hospital. So you're always going to meet someone in some department that you click with. But when it's a smaller office, which I'm assuming this is, right? Like you see her every day. I'm assuming it's a small office. She wants to hang out. You don't really get along with her by the sounds of it, or you don't really like spending time with her and you don't want to spend time with her. I do feel a little bit sorry for her, Laura, in all seriousness, because she's trying to have a friend. But we don't have to do things we don't want to do, and you don't have to spend your time with someone that you don't want to. And I know that sounds mean, but the older we get and the more responsibilities we have, and when you start to have kids and you're so stressed, you're so busy with work and just trying to survive and trying to fucking live in this economy, that time is such a precious commodity. You don't want to be spending it with people you genuinely don't have an interest in or don't like.
Yeah.
That's the easy bit. You don't have to go, and it's worse for you to go and be a mole so that she hates you. Like that is way worse. The part I don't know what to do is I don't know how you say it to her. I don't know if you just have that conversation and say, look, I really try and keep my work and my personal life separate. I hope that that's okay with you, but like that's just how I like to operate. Or maybe it's just easier to consistently say you're busy.
I agree with you, Britt. I don't think that you should force yourself to be friends with people who you don't feel as though that you're getting anything out of the friendship either. Like if you're just doing it to be nice because this person keeps asking you, that's not the foundations of what a friendship is based on. And that's okay. You know, you will really vibe with some people and you won't vibe with others. It does make me sad for her that maybe she doesn't have friends and she is really trying.
Yeah.
But it's also not worth her putting her energy into someone who maybe she thinks could be her friend and that you are just busy and you're not able to do something instead of being able to like, you know, try and actually make other friends who might actually be invested in her. I don't think it's necessary to have a sit-down conversation with her around placing boundaries. Sometimes I think we can really overshoot it with this sort of stuff. I also don't think you need to come up with constant excuses. You just have to say, oh, I'm not able to, I'm busy. You don't have to explain why you're busy. Sometimes when we give people a no, we often feel as though we need to explain why the no is a no.
It's because it's not always that easy.
And give context. Yeah, I know it's not.
Because like think of this conversation, ready? Like, hey, do you want to hang out tonight?
Oh my God, I'm so sorry I can't. I'm actually so busy at the moment.
Oh, what do you got going on?
Look, life has been hectic. A lot of personal stuff. I don't really want to get into it.
Yeah, I totally get it and I agree with you. It's like you don't owe anyone anything. We've done episodes on that before, but I get that sometimes you're in a position where it's hard to make excuses.
Totally, but I think that's the problem. I think sometimes we force ourselves to make excuses and then we get caught in lies. I think keep it as
Laura
simple.
doesn't even have kids.
I'm not even married. I think keep it as simple as you can when you do decline an invitation to something. You don't have to explain the no all the time. And that's where you can get yourself caught up because you're like, oh, I've run out of excuses. And it's like, well, you shouldn't be having to say, oh, tomorrow I've got dinner with my mum and on Tuesday I'm going to get my nails done and on Wednesday I'm just going to be really busy on the phone because a telemarketer is going to call me. You just don't have to give that level of detail. Do you know what I mean? So I think if you consistently keep saying, I'm sorry, I can't this week, I'm really busy, I've got a lot on with family stuff, or my friends are in town, whatever you want to, and keep it top line as possible, those invitations will start to decrease. And I think in time, they will get a picture that, not that you're not interested, but that you're not available. Your friendship is not available to them because you're not someone who's worthy investing time in because you're never free. And that's okay. And I know you probably feel bad, and it's probably a annoying thing because you feel like, well, she can't read the room. But unfortunately, it's something that's uncomfortable, but it's not something that's just avoidable.
Yeah, and it's hard because you've even said you don't even want to be friends with her at work. Not only do you not have interest outside of work, but you don't want to be friends at work. So maybe you need to put up a bit more of a vibe at work.
No,
I think so. You've got to put up a vibe at work that we are not going to be besties. So we're not going to have those laughs and those gossips. We're not, because that's what leads someone to wanting to hang out with you after work. So when you're at work, you're just going to work mode. There's a difference with the energy you give people if you want to be their friend and you don't want to be their friend. And this is a tricky situation because you work with her all day. She wants to hang out with you all the time. You don't want to hang out with her at all.
I feel differently to you, Britt. And the reason for that is because I think you don't treat people at all in a way where the vibe is I just worry that sort of recommendation changes the culture in a workplace. You don't want her to think that she's done something wrong. You don't want her to think that you're angry at her.
But there's a difference with a work vibe and a friend vibe. 100%. Like friends that are like, babes, let's go grab a coffee at lunch. Let's go get a coffee and have a gossip and have a laugh and have a chat. And there's a very big difference with that. And hey guys, I'm just going to go take my lunch break. I'll come back. That's the kind of thing I mean, that you don't treat her differently. You don't be mean to her, but you put out different energy when you want to be friends with someone and you see someone as a work colleague. And I'm even thinking of people, in our work environment.
I think also it also depends on how chatty you are as a person. Are you someone who shares a lot about your personal life at work? Are you sharing with her in a friend way that would give her the thought that maybe this is a friendship, because maybe she's part of a group at work, and so you're all sharing different stories and stuff about yourself, and so she feels as though there's a closeness there because it's been manufactured through just spending a lot of time together and sharing a lot about each other. Whereas to you, you're like, oh, I would have told that to my hairdresser. That to me didn't mean anything. I think assessing how you interact with her, definitely, Britt, when you say it in that way. But I just think you don't need to give off a vibe at work that's an I don't want to be your friend vibe, because that could really affect your ability to work together in a way that's harmonious.
I don't know. This is such a tough one. There's just not really it's not really an answer that's do this, say this.
My definitive answer is do not sit this person down and tell them that you don't want to have a friendship outside of work. We don't always need to communicate our boundaries to people. It just makes you sound like an absolute asshole. If you're hey, I really enjoy working with you, but actually we are not people who are going to be friends outside of work, you will come across as such a dick. I think it is purely just a situation where you just politely decline her invitations, and she will at some point understand that this is a friendship that's not going to be beyond a work environment.
Oh, I know what you do.
What?
Quit. Get a new job. Sorry.
Get her fired.
Yeah.